A single text message changed everything for Marcus Johnson. Standing in the airport terminal, his military duffel bag slung over his shoulder, he stared at his phone with growing concern. "Please don't come home early. I'm not ready." The message from his wife Sarah made his heart sink. After 15 months in Afghanistan, this wasn't the homecoming response he'd expected. Marcus clutched the bouquet of red roses tighter, his palms sweating against the wrapped stems. The flowers had seemed perfect when he bought them at the airport shop, but now they felt like an inadequate shield against the uncertainty ahead. The taxi ride home stretched longer than he remembered, each familiar street stirring memories of easier times. Their two-story home looked different somehow. The garden Sarah had always tended with pride showed signs of neglect, wilted flowers drooping beneath the afternoon sun. The brass door knocker needed polishing, and yesterday's newspaper lay untouched on the porch. Marcus's hand trembled as he inserted his key. The lock turned with a click that seemed too loud in the quiet neighborhood. Inside, the house smelled different. Not the familiar scent of Sarah's vanilla candles or her favorite jasmine tea, but something medicinal he couldn't place. "Sarah!" His voice echoed through the silent house. Footsteps hurried upstairs, followed by the sound of drawers closing. "Marcus?" Sarah's voice wavered. You're early." She appeared at the top of the stairs, and Marcus's breath caught in his throat. His wife had always been slim, but now she looked fragile, her cheekbones too sharp beneath her dark skin. Her usually immaculate braids were pulled back in a hasty bun, and she gripped the banister with white-knuckled fingers. "Surprise," Marcus said softly, lifting the roses. "I wanted to come home to my queen." Sarah descended the stairs slowly, each step careful and measured. When she reached him, her embrace felt different, tentative, as if she feared breaking. The roses trembled between them. "You should have told me," she whispered against his chest. "I would have cleaned up, made everything perfect." Marcus pulled back, studying her face. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and something about her smile seemed forced. "Since when do you need everything perfect for me?" Sarah looked away, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from her shirt. "Let me put these in water. You must be exhausted. Have you eaten?" Before Marcus could answer, his best friend David's truck roared into the driveway. Sarah flinched at the sound, nearly dropping the roses. "I called him," she said quickly, "when you texted about coming home. I thought we could all celebrate together." But David's face told a different story when he burst through the door. His usual easy smile was replaced with worry as his eyes darted between Marcus and Sarah. "Brother?" David pulled Marcus into a tight hug, whispering urgently in his ear. "Man, I tried to get here before you. We need to talk." Sarah's hands shook as she arranged the roses in a vase. "I'll make coffee. You two catch up." As soon as Sarah disappeared into the kitchen, David grabbed Marcus's arm. "Something's wrong, Marcus. Sarah's been acting strange for months. Missing church, canceling plans. Pastor Williams keeps asking about her." Marcus's military training kicked in. Assess the situation, gather intelligence. "How long?" "Started about 3 months after you deployed. First we thought she was just missing you, but..." David's voice dropped lower. "Last week I saw her coming out of Atlanta Medical Center. She was crying, man. When I tried to ask what was wrong, she just got in her car and drove away." The coffee maker hummed in the kitchen, accompanied by the soft clink of mugs. Marcus's mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. "She's lost weight," Marcus said, his voice tight. "That's not all." David hesitated. "The dance studio. She sold it." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Sarah's dance studio had been her dream, the culmination of years of teaching ballet to inner-city kids. She'd fought too hard for that dream to just let it go. Sarah returned with 3 mugs of coffee, her hands steady now, but her smile still strained. "I made it just how you like it, Marcus. Strong enough to wake the dead." Marcus took the mug, noting how she avoided his eyes. "Sarah, baby, what happened to the studio?" The mug slipped from her grasp, shattering on the hardwood floor. Coffee splashed across their shoes, but Sarah didn't move to clean it up. She stood frozen, staring at the broken pieces. "I should go," David said quietly, backing toward the door. "Welcome home, brother. Sarah, tell him." The door clicked shut behind David, leaving a heavy silence. Sarah knelt to pick up the broken mug, her movements jerky and uncertain. "Leave it," Marcus said gently, reaching for her hand. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Sarah pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. "You just got home. You should rest. Get settled. We can talk later." "No." Marcus's voice carried the authority of his rank. "No more delays. No more secrets. What are you hiding from me?" Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks as she sank onto the couch. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I wanted everything to be perfect when you came home. I wanted to be perfect for you." Marcus knelt before her, taking her trembling hands in his. "You've never needed to be perfect. You just need to be honest with me. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Sarah's next words shattered his world. "I'm sick, Marcus. Really sick. And the doctors, they don't know if—" Her voice broke. "I didn't want you worrying about me while you were over there. I thought I could handle it alone. Be strong like you always are. But I'm not strong anymore. I'm not the woman you left behind." Marcus pulled her into his arms as she broke down, her tears soaking his uniform. Outside, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the broken mug and spilled coffee, a perfect metaphor for their shattered peace. This wasn't the homecoming either of them had imagined, but as Marcus held his weeping wife, he made a silent vow. Whatever battle lay ahead, they would fight it together. The silence in their bedroom felt heavier than any battlefield Marcus had known. Sarah lay curled on her side, exhausted from crying, while he sat in the chair by the window staring at the medical documents spread across his lap. Multiple sclerosis. The words blurred before his eyes as he read them again and again, trying to make sense of how their life had changed so dramatically. "3 months after you left," Sarah whispered, her voice hoarse, "I started dropping things at the dance studio. Simple moves I'd done thousands of times became impossible. My legs would shake for no reason." Marcus gripped the papers tighter, his knuckles turning white. "Why didn't you call me? You were leading missions in Afghanistan. What were you going to do? Leave your unit because your wife was dropping coffee cups?" "Yes," Marcus said firmly, turning to face her. "I would have come home immediately." Sarah pushed herself up, wincing at the movement. "That's exactly why I couldn't tell you. You've spent your whole life protecting people, Marcus. I couldn't let you throw away your career for me." "Throw away my—" Marcus stood abruptly, the papers scattering across the floor. "You're my wife, Sarah, my partner. Does that mean nothing to you?" "It means everything," she whispered. "That's why I had to protect you too." Marcus paced the room, his military training warring with his emotions. "Protect me? By selling your studio without telling me? By hiding your doctor's appointments? By suffering alone?" "I thought I could handle it," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "I thought if I just pushed through, stayed strong." "Strong?" Marcus stopped pacing, his voice rising. "You think being strong means shutting me out? Making decisions about our life without me?" Sarah flinched at his tone, and immediately Marcus felt ashamed. He sat on the edge of the bed, reaching for her hand. She let him take it, her fingers cold against his palm. "The studio was your dream," he said softly. "All those kids you taught, the scholarships you gave. Why give that up?" Tears slid down Sarah's cheeks. "I couldn't keep up anymore. The fatigue got worse, and my balance—" She looked away. "I fell during a beginner's class, right in front of my students. Their parents started worrying, pulling them out. I couldn't risk anyone getting hurt because of me." Marcus's heart clenched. He imagined Sarah alone in her beloved studio, watching her dreams crumble piece by piece. "You should have told me." "And said what?" "Hey, honey, hope you're staying safe in the war zone. By the way, I can barely walk some days." Sarah pulled her hand away. "I couldn't put that on you. Instead, you put it all on yourself." Marcus stood again, running his hands over his face. "The medical bills, the treatments, selling the studio. You shouldered everything alone." "I had to be strong," Sarah repeated, but her voice wavered. "Like you. You think I'm strong?" Marcus turned back to her, his voice raw. "I'm terrified right now. My wife is sick, and I wasn't here. You needed me, and I was halfway around the world." "You were serving our country," Sarah protested. "My first duty is to you," Marcus said firmly. Always has been, always will be. Sarah's face crumpled. I'm not the woman you married anymore, Marcus. I can't dance, can't teach. Some days I can barely make it down the stairs. I'm broken. Marcus knelt before her, taking her face in his hands. Look at me, Sarah Johnson. You are not broken. You're fighting a battle I can't even imagine. But you're not fighting it alone anymore. A sob escaped her. The doctors say it's progressive. It's only going to get worse. Then we'll face it together. Marcus pressed his forehead to hers. No more secrets. No more carrying this alone. You hear me? Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so scared, Marcus. Me too, he admitted, pulling her into his arms. But I've got you now. We'll figure this out. A sharp knock at the door startled them both. David's voice called through the wood. Marcus? Sarah? Pastor Williams is here. Sarah tensed in Marcus's arms. I haven't been to church in months. I didn't want people asking questions. Our community wants to help, Marcus said gently. They love you. They'll pity me, Sarah whispered. Look at me like I'm broken. No, Marcus said firmly. They'll support us, like family should. Sarah hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay, but help me change first? I can't let Pastor Williams see me like this. Marcus's heart ached as he helped Sarah into fresh clothes, noting how her hands trembled with each button. She'd always been so independent, so capable. Watching her struggle with simple tasks felt like a physical pain in his chest. When they finally opened the door, Pastor Williams stood there with David, his kind face creased with concern. Without a word, he opened his arms, and Sarah fell into them, breaking down again. My child, Pastor Williams said softly, you've been carrying this burden far too long. Marcus watched as his wife finally let go of her facade of strength, surrounded by people who loved her. He thought of all the nights she must have spent alone, afraid and in pain, while he was overseas fighting a different kind of battle. Never again, he vowed silently. Whatever came next, Sarah would never have to face it alone. They had survived war, distance, and secrets. Together they would survive this too. As the evening sun cast long shadows through the windows, Marcus listened to Pastor Williams pray over them, his deep voice filling their home with hope. Sarah's hand found his, squeezing tight, and for the first time since coming home, Marcus felt the weight in his chest begin to lift. This wasn't the homecoming he'd imagined, but they were together, and together they could face anything. The hospital walls felt cold and unfamiliar as Marcus paced the waiting room. Sarah's collapse had come without warning. One moment she was making breakfast, the next she lay motionless on the kitchen floor. Her skin had felt like ice against his hands as he called the ambulance. Mr. Johnson? A nurse appeared, her face gentle. Your wife is asking for you. Marcus's heart pounded as he followed her through the sterile corridors. Sarah looked tiny in the hospital bed, tubes and wires surrounding her like a web. Her eyes fluttered open as he approached, and she tried to smile. Hey, soldier, she whispered. Sorry for scaring you. Marcus took her hand, careful of the IV line. Don't you dare apologize. Just focus on getting better. Dr. Thompson entered the room, holding Sarah's charts. Her expression made Marcus's stomach tighten. The MS is progressing faster than we'd hoped, she explained softly. But there's a new treatment available. It's aggressive, expensive, and there are no guarantees, but it might help slow things down. Sarah's grip tightened on Marcus's hand. How expensive? Don't, Marcus said firmly. We're not thinking about money right now. But the house, Sarah protested weakly, your savings mean nothing without you. Marcus turned to Dr. Thompson. Tell us what she needs. As the doctor explained the treatment plan, Marcus watched Sarah's face. He saw the moment fear gave way to determination, saw her straighten her shoulders despite the pain. His warrior woman, still fighting. When can we start? Sarah asked. Tomorrow morning, Dr. Thompson replied. But I need you to understand. This won't be easy. The side effects can be severe. Will it help her walk again? Marcus asked, his voice rough. It might. Every patient responds differently. Dr. Thompson's eyes softened. But Sarah's young, strong, and she has something many patients don't, a solid support system. After the doctor left, Sarah turned to Marcus, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry about the money. I've already cost us so much. Stop. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. Remember what you used to tell your dance students? Your worth isn't measured in dollars? A tear slid down Sarah's cheek. I miss them. I miss dancing. I miss who I used to be. You're still you, Marcus said fiercely. Still the woman who gave free lessons to kids who couldn't afford them. Still the woman who danced in the rain on our wedding day. Still the woman I love. Sarah's lower lip trembled. But what if this treatment doesn't work? What if I never dance again? Then we'll find new ways to move through life together. Marcus brushed away her tears. Remember our first dance? You were so worried about my 2 left feet. A small laugh escaped her. You stepped on my dress 3 times. But we kept dancing, Marcus smiled. Even when we messed up, we kept moving forward. That's what we're going to do now. The next morning, as nurses prepared Sarah for her first treatment, Marcus felt helpless. He'd been trained to fight enemies he could see, not this invisible force attacking his wife's body. I'm scared, Sarah admitted as the nurses hooked up the IV. I know, but you're not alone. Marcus held her hand. I've got you. Hours passed. Sarah drifted in and out of sleep as the medicine flowed into her veins. Marcus never left her side, watching for any sign of distress. When she woke crying from pain, he wiped her tears. When nausea hit, he held her hair back. When fever made her shake, he kept her warm. Late that night, as moonlight filtered through the hospital window, Sarah stirred. Marcus. Right here, baby. Will you tell me about Afghanistan? The good parts? Her voice was weak but curious. I want to hear what I missed while I was keeping secrets. Marcus's throat tightened. Even now, sick and hurting, she was thinking of him. He settled into the chair beside her bed and began to talk. He told her about the children who played soccer in the streets, about the old man who gave him tea every morning, about the stray dog his unit had adopted. As he spoke, Sarah's eyes stayed fixed on his face, drinking in every word. This was the connection they'd lost, the simple act of sharing their lives, their stories, their hearts. I thought about you every day, Marcus admitted. Wondered what you were doing, if you were dancing, if you missed me. I did dance, Sarah whispered, even when it hurt, because it made me feel close to you. Marcus blinked back tears. We're going to dance again, Sarah. Maybe not like before, but we'll find our own way. A nurse entered to check Sarah's vital signs, smiling at their joined hands. You two remind me of my grandparents, she said warmly. Married 50 years and they still look at each other like that. Sarah managed a tired smile. 50 years. That sounds nice. That's the plan, Marcus said firmly. We've got a lot of dancing left to do. As night deepened, Sarah finally fell into a peaceful sleep. Marcus watched her breathing, his mind wandering to their future. It wouldn't be the life they'd planned, but maybe it could be something just as beautiful. Different steps to the same love song. He thought about their empty dance studio, sitting dark and quiet across town. Maybe it couldn't be what it was before, but that didn't mean its story was over. Sarah had always said dance was about adaptation, about finding new ways to express what was in your heart. Tomorrow would bring more treatments, more challenges, more fears to face. But tonight, watching his wife sleep, Marcus felt something he hadn't since coming home. Hope. Not for a miracle cure or a return to their old life, but for something new. Something they would build together, one step at a time. Like Sarah had taught her students, sometimes the most beautiful dances come from learning new ways to move. 5 years can change everything. On a warm Sunday afternoon, Marcus stood in the doorway of their renovated dance studio, watching Sarah guide a young girl's wheelchair through a gentle spin. The sunlight streaming through the windows made her smile glow, her black hair now streaked with elegant silver strands. That's it, Maya, Sarah encouraged, her voice strong and clear. Feel the music in your heart, not just your body. The studio looked different now. Alongside the traditional barres and mirrors, Specialized equipment helped dancers of all abilities move to the music. Sarah's Dance Without Limits program had become something none of them expected, a place of healing for wounded warriors and children with disabilities. Miss Sarah? Maya beamed, executing another careful spin. I did it! You sure did, baby girl. Sarah's eyes met Marcus's in the mirror, and her smile widened. Look who's here to pick us up. The other students turned, calling out greetings. Many were children of veterans, some dealing with their own health challenges. They'd found more than dance here. They'd found family. Uncle Marcus. Maya wheeled herself over. Did you see my new move? Marcus knelt beside her wheelchair. Smooth as silk, princess. You're becoming a real dancer, just like Miss Sarah. Sarah made her way over, her movements careful but graceful. The MS hadn't disappeared, but they'd learned to dance with it, to find beauty in their new rhythm. Class dismissed, everyone, Sarah called out. Remember, we have our showcase next weekend. As parents arrived to pick up their children, Marcus helped Sarah gather her things. Her hands shook slightly as she packed her bag, a sign she'd pushed herself hard today, but her eyes sparkled with life. You overdid it again, he said softly, taking the bag from her. Worth it, she replied. Did you see Maya today? 3 months ago, she wouldn't even come into the studio. Now look at her. Marcus wrapped an arm around her waist, supporting her as they walked to the car. You gave her what you give everyone. Hope. We gave her hope, Sarah corrected. This studio wouldn't exist without you believing in me, even when I stopped believing in myself. The drive home was peaceful, filled with Sarah's excited chatter about the upcoming showcase. Their house came into view, the garden now blooming again, the brass knocker shining in the sun. Remember when you came home that day? Sarah asked quietly as they pulled into the driveway. I was so scared, thought I'd lost everything, my health, my dream, my husband. Instead, Marcus smiled, we found something new. Inside, Sarah sank onto their porch swing, the same one where they'd spent countless nights during her treatment, planning this new chapter of their lives. Marcus sat beside her, pulling her close. The doctor called yesterday, Sarah said, her voice steady. The latest tests show the MS hasn't progressed in 18 months. Marcus's heart soared. Baby, that's wonderful news. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I wanted to be sure. She turned to face him, eyes shining. Remember what you promised me 5 years ago? That we'd find new ways to dance? I remember. We did it, Marcus. It's not the life we planned, but... She gestured toward the studio visible down the street, where lights still glowed as the last students left. Maybe it's even better. Marcus kissed her temple, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. Their love story hadn't been easy. They'd faced war, illness, and fear. But they'd learned to dance through it all, finding strength in their steps together. As the sun set over their neighborhood, Sarah leaned against her husband's chest, humming softly. Their porch swing swayed gently, a slow dance of its own. They'd learned that love, like dance, doesn't always need perfect steps, just two hearts moving in harmony through life's music. From the scared soldier at the doorstep to the strong couple they'd become, their journey had taught them the most important lesson. Sometimes life's greatest battles bring the most beautiful victories. And they were still dancing in their own perfect way. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring, real-life stories. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Have you ever experienced a love that helped you overcome life's biggest challenges? Remember, sharing these stories helps others find hope in their own battles. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.